Okay, hey there. Sam back with you on August 15th, Wednesday, midday here. And as I alluded to in the prior video, we're looking at Ethereum to the dollar here. So we're doing the big majors today. We just did a Bitcoin. Now we'll look at Ethereum. So here's Ethereum to the dollar. This is a 3-hour on Bitstamp. Now, I'm still operating under the assumption that what we have is a very large WXY. All right, so here's our ABC into our W. Here's our X wave, and now we're going A, B, and then down here somewhere is a C. So, of course, just from the larger degree here and larger view, we want to look at this here as a contender. So, from the algo perspective, so swing high to swing low, we've gotten through the 6.5. So, right, so you can see, well, if an algo is flipping there and they're waiting for the next buy, right, because of getting stopped here and breaking the 65, well, then you would just look at it this way and we'd say, okay, well, if they've been stopped out on that side, then they're looking here and they got stopped out here. So 2 losers in a row for the algos trading on this larger degree. Trust me, they'll make it up. And so we'll look here. Now here was the other one that I think I had shown before. All right, so here was, they did quite well here. So here was to the 618 to the tick, straight to algo target. So they can afford it. So they're doing just fine here. But from our perspective here, so if this is W, X, A, B, C. Well, we're trying to get a handle on it. Well, we know a B wave when we put our Elliott hats on and think, okay, well, could that be a B wave? Well, it's very common to be between the 618 and the 786. So we don't quite make the 786 on this. And you might think, all right, well, we're approaching target down here. So at least I've got something that I can consider to be aware of here. So I'm going to just let's get a little hot box on that. I can, so let's just draw this over here. That's an area that we want to be paying attention to as a possible target for this very larger A, B, then pushing for that C. And I looked here, if you pull it back one, we do get this here. So from the higher pivot all the way down, well, you got to assume there'll be an algo that would be trading that as well. Well, they're still short and rolling here. They're just from the 50, they've got their target down here. So we get another one we have to pay attention to down here. All right, so let's just mark these as potential targets that we just at least have to be aware of, because I promise you an algorithm sold that, and they're just sitting short, and they'll stay short until we get down here. Now that's 150. So we have the first one at 200, the second one at 150. I think 200 is a reasonable target for this move here, and I'm going to show you why here. This one seems a little, that would surprise me, but we'll take a look at it. It's certainly possible to get this right on that pivot. Okay, so let's pull that off and say from this pivot here, what are we at? That's 833 that we put in that high on May 18th. Okay, so let's work from that pivot down. See if we can make sense of it and get a good clear count on where we are and what's most likely. That's all we can ever do, is just look for probability zones, looking for a certain outcome. Okay, so here's that B wave here. So working down here, I've got a fairly solid 1-2. That's, you know, I'm not uncomfortable with that. I'm not questioning that. It looks like a good 1-2. All right, so from that, if that's my 2, I'm looking for an impulsive wave structure to give me my third. Well, the subdivision is certainly all here. So I get, again, a 1-2 down for the 3. Here's my impulse, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C into my 4, and then I get nice, clear subdivision into my 5th. So I come down 1, 2, 3, here's the 4, we don't threaten the 1, down we come for the 5. So I have here a completed wave structure. So from this, so I have a completed impulse, I should be saying. So from this, from my 2 to my 3, now I go A, B, C, and I don't quite make the 38, but we are certainly in the prime zone for a wave 4 between the 23.6 and the 38, and that's the rollover before we go down. So I like this count as it sits here, given that nice subdivision here. So if that's 3, 4, and 5, then looking for this, I should have wicked this off before. Okay, so we're already through the first target. Now we've got our second target here, so I'm going to look down here, and so all we're doing is looking for confluence zones. So that's also a contender. So from the 2 to the 3, just where you'd anticipate finding a 4, certainly within norms there, coming down. First target, you see we have a little reaction here, got through it rather easily. It looks like maybe there's one more push down, which would be consistent with what I think is happening with Bitcoin. So let's, from this 4, now we have this good subdivision here. So let's look at that as well. We've got our targets marked off down here. So I'm going to go down to the, I'll go to the 30-minute, see how we look down here. All right, so from that pivot here, which I'm identifying as our wave 4, right? So if we're going to come down, we're looking for 5 to finish it. So, you know, there's a couple of different ways this could be counted. So let's just work through this. All right, so here, this 1, and then I get an A, B, C into my 2. So that's fairly solid. And I think if I recall, this was quite technical, right? So we get this triple top here right in front of the 618. We roll down, actually get second target before we get a little retrace. So that's all good. So it looks like I've got a 1 ABC into my 2. Well, now I got to start doing some projecting, looking for my third, because it's a little tricky here because we've just had this complete collapse. So from this wave 1, projecting for my wave 2. Well, let's just pull them over and see what our choices are here. Well, if this is going to be 1, 2, I've got to get a 5-wave subdivision down here to give me my my impulsive wave for my third. Well, we got to break that down. So here, now as I'm labeling it here, I've got us completing the 5th all the way down here. Now that's very extreme because we're beyond the 2618. So it's extreme depth relative to the length of the 1. So it makes you think, okay, well, where's the most common zone for it? Would be right here. So what initially I was thinking, oh, maybe we have 3 here, but I don't, when you do work through the subdivision, I don't think that works as well. So from this 2, I've got a good 1 wave here. I get a shallow 2 again. This has been throughout this whole correction, both in Ethereum and Bitcoin. These shallow 2s have been what are creating challenges for us because it's far from the norm. So we're in less than 10% of wave 2s retrace only to the 23.6. Very, very shallow wave 2. Yet I've got good subdivision here to give me my 1. You know, less than 10% is, you know, if we still, there it is, right? So from that 2, then it looks to me, if that's my 2, that I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That plays rather nicely to give me my candidate here for a 3 and a 4. So let's just look at it, see how it plays. If I'm right here, and this is the 1, and this is my 2, when I pull this over here, is this a candidate for my 3? Well, we certainly, I can get the subdivision there, so I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down for my third. Not uncommon to go to the 1, 2, 7, 2. This is more typical, but we're already 2 through that. So I think we've got the 3. This is where I get a little bit of a, again, I'm getting these very shallow retracements. So, but look how the 2 and the 4 are very similar. So if I did this, if I took the 2 projected from the 4 and then pulled this over. All right, so here's 100%. So we almost have parity here, where the 2 and the 4 equal each other. You know, there, of course, there's the what I would call the tendency of alternation. So we have simple followed by simple. But if I look at this and think about the larger degree, this still looks to me like this is all just a deep impulsive wave structure here. So with that count, I can go, well, let's go up a degree here so this makes sense. So if I go 1, 2, 3, go up to micro here, and then give it that subdivision here. So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 down into the 5. Now let's get that down a degree. All right, so there's my 1, 2. Then I've got 3, 4, 5. So it looks to me like I've completed 3. Now, this is consistent with what I think is happening with Bitcoin because these two are going to move together. So 1, 2, I've got a completed third, very deep, but I've got a completed third. So if I think about measuring here, my 2 to my 4, well, right to the 23.6. Again, not uncommon for a 4. We're 2 through the target. And then I might look for the 1, length of the 1 projected from the 4. How do we do here? We come just shy of parity here. Not uncommon, so that potentially we just have a little front run here. It's hard to say. But what I think all we've done here is put in the 3, and then we're in the process of carving out an ABC. So what I'm anticipating is that this is just an A wave going in here. So we're going to do something like this, put in that, and then we're going to punch down towards these bigger targets down here. Get rid of that. That's what I think is more likely. So if we take the 2 and take it to our 3 and then look here, so we'd be looking for that somewhere around the 38, anticipating that we're going to run into some resistance there. So I guess I've got to go to the 1 hour to bring some of that over. All right, so let me reset here. So I think the same thing is happening with Bitcoin. I just don't think we're done yet. So in blue here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This looks like it has one more push down, right? All we're doing is retracing now this impulsive third wave here in the 5th. So anticipating the ABC into the 4, looking for it at the 38. One last push down sets it up for the buy. We've got multiple confluence zones down here. We can add to that once we decide if indeed we do get a pivot here and we start to roll over, then we can work on some of those as well. But note here how my negative 23.6 here is right on top of one of the targets that we did on the larger degree. So I have some clusters down here that make sense. And then if we, excuse me, if I zoom it all the way back out, can I get it out on the 1 hour? No, I don't think I can. Let's go to my 3 hour and think about where some of that would start to fit. So if I take the large one here from my B here, okay, so here's the 50. Now that would put us, so now let's go back down there. Let's go back to the 1 hour. Zoom it up. All right, so here's the very large degree here. Here's the smaller, right? If this is going to be 4 here. So we've got a cluster of zones down here that suggest reasonable targets to be looking for support. So the first one being at 200, the second one being at 150. So certainly this could roll down. We could easily go to 150, but I like this 200 as a target here. So where's the trade? Well, as far as I'm concerned, the only trade to consider here, I would not be buying into that 4. There's certainly an opportunity to sell into the 4 down to the 5. Right? We can be, well, you know, you don't really have much to work with here with regards to any market structure to use, because the last pivot you have here is right around the wave 1 high. So I would be looking at it this way. So if we were looking at a short, let's get a short here. If we were looking here with this as a target, right, if we're going to hit that first target, can I draw this over? Yeah. So I would be on the other side of the 50 there. So at least you're going to get 4 to 1, roughly. There's 4 to 1. So if I'm entering on the 38, I'd have my stop just on the other side of the 50, because if we're going that high, even here, see if you get too far from that, there's 3.5 to 1. I tell you, a minimum target is 3 to 1. So to get 3 to 1, you'd have to be giving that. Right, there's 3.2 to 1. You're giving that a little breathing room on the other side of the 50, looking for precision. So if that's going to come up, we enter right there. So if that's going to come up, well, at least you're maintaining 3.2 to 1. Yeah, let's get that target down here. If we hit the target, here's 3.43 to 1. I'd be cautious about this if we're starting to push beyond the 50. That starts to make you think maybe we have this count wrong and that potentially I have a pivot low in. I don't think that's what's likely happening. I think this is just an ABC before we roll down one more time and we get that capitulation and the kind of volume that we'd be looking for. Now, we did have very high volume here, as I recall. Let's see if I can click this here. Well, we're starting to get some, hang on a second. Let me get a different template on this. Is this the one I had? Yeah, there we go. So you can see this volume spike here. We had huge volume here that brought us down. So, you know, point of caution here to be paying attention to it, right? So counts can change. They change all the time. Right now, I still think there's one more drive lower. Then we start. Now, that does not mean I'm suggesting be a buyer here. I do think there is a potential short there. I'm not suggesting to be a buyer down here if you're trying to trade it. Now, if you're accumulating and you can buy Ethereum at 200 or 150, well, it's hard to argue with that. But for a trader, if you're looking for this, somewhere down here, if we finish in 5, again, as I will often suggest, I'd wait for the first motive wave, and then I'd take the first retrace looking for the 3. Right? So in the context, you'd have of an Elliott count, you'd have this going 1, this going 2. You're trying to catch the 3, the 4, and the 5. So the play here is to wait, let the pivot establish, because if we're going to roll down again, we want to let that get established, and then we want to see a clear 5 wave take us off of that low so that we know we have that 1 wave in. Then we can trade with probabilities. We have price, pattern, an algo pull. We have everything we're looking for to be positioned to catch the 2 into the 3. So that's my view of it here. It's just to hurry up and wait. If you're not going to take the short, right, then you're just waiting for this to complete, or signs that this is our low and this count has to be relabeled. I have to rethink that. If this is going to continue to push higher, we're going to go like that, well, then the count is wrong and this may be the pivot. But right now, I think that's just way, way, way too soon to call that. All we've got here, it looks to me like just an A wave going in. Right on target, right on schedule. So A going in, look for a 3-wave counter. You could buy the B into the C. That's tradable because you have a clear exit here. So if we get a decent, you'd like to see it come down to the golden zone. If you get a decent pivot there, that's tradable. Whoops, wrong one. All right, so from this low, if again, I don't know where we're going to pivot here, but if we came down here, something like that, you got a reasonable. So first algo target here, that's tradable, right? You're just short-term little swing trade. That's tradable, but the anticipation would be it's really just a setup to catch the short down for the 5. Then the 5, I wouldn't try and pick the bottom. I would just wait for that first motive wave and take the 2 to lead us out of there, possibly with a new trend. All right, so that's what I see there. I think these all will be worth waiting for. There's a certain sense of impatience that we have in here. And there's also this feeling that you must be in the market. So I'm quick to remind you that no trade is just as valid of a trading decision as being in the market. So being on the sidelines, it's not a bad place to be as we look for more clarity coming out of this very long correction that we've been through. All right, guys. So that'll be a wrap. Give us a follow over on Twitter if you want to learn more about our Trade Devils University and what we offer through the training and the members Discord. You can always learn more about that over on our website. That's Trade Devils with an S, tradedevils.com. All right, guys. See you later.